everyone, welcome to Game Dames Vidcast. I'm your host, Cindy. Today's topic is going to be spouses in gaming. Oh yeah. This topic came to me this past weekend because I was listening to the Married Gamers podcast and they recorded their PAX panel, which was talking about spouses in gaming. And most of these people that was on the panel were there with their spouses or had significant others that were gamers as well. There was one person, however, who did not have a gaming spouse, and this was the guy that I related to the most because of my situation is somewhat similar to that. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit and exchange ideas and experiences, basically. So I'm a pretty hardcore gamer, and I say that because most of my free time is taken up by gaming or something related to gaming, whether it's recording these videos or, working on my blog or whatever. I talk about gaming pretty much all the time. It's the thing that I know the most right now. Some people talk about football, some people talk about the weather, some people talk about, whatever, golf, whatever comes, or concerts, music. I talk about gaming, and which can be sort of awkward when I go into social situations like a party or barbecue, which I have been to a lot lately. And it's I've come to the point now where I'm secure enough, and I think it's becoming more and more popular. Gaming is becoming more and more popular in the media and out there. And I think more now that Facebook is huge and a lot of people find themselves playing these little games, these Facebook games. I mean, I think it's seriously, this is just an aside, but I think people seriously underestimate how good Facebook has been for gaming, in that it's really brought understanding to people who might have never, might have looked at older gamers like myself and say, oh, why are you doing? Why are you still being a kid? And they're like, and now it's more like, oh yeah, I played Bejeweled on Facebook or Farmville or whatever. And then, and it starts to, it's a little bit more acceptable now, so I'm less scared of talking about it. And not only that, but I think even my spouse is less scared of saying, oh yeah, my wife is a gamer. Because for years, for a long time, when we were in company, it was never really mentioned. And when I mentioned it, there was kind of always an awkward silence following it. Or, a lady would say, oh, my son plays video games. I'm like, yeah, that's not really what I was going for. And which is great, but they just don't have anything to say or to relate to, and what they think about that wasn't always overly positive. So now that it's better understanding, and I'm more confident in myself, I can actually explain my hobby a lot better than I used to be able to. Actually, for a long time I was kind of scared of telling people, and I would kind of avoid the subject. And when people ask me, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom, what do you do? I was like, yeah, about that. I paint. I would say all the things that I kind of sometimes do as opposed to what I always do, which was gaming. So that was kind of awkward for a while. Not so much now. Anyway, back to the spouses. Some of you, are pretty familiar with spouse aggro, with when you're playing a game for a few hours and then your spouse gets upset with you or needs you to do stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes turns into 20, which turns into 40, and then they finally just go ahead and do it and stuff like that. There can be a massive communication breakdown when that happens. And as a gamer, you have to learn to prioritize your family life and your spouse. So right now I've come to, I've developed strategies to work around this, in that if I know I'm going to be spending hours playing a game for whatever reason, whether it's because I'm going through a dungeon with my guild, or because, I need to do this really long quest, or I need to get a review done for my vidcast or something, or I need to do a guest host on a podcast, for say. I take my husband aside and I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen. I need this time to myself. And for some time he was kind of not really receptive to it, because you know, to him, gaming is just something he does when he's really bored and there's nobody around and there's really nothing to do. So to relate that, I had to compare my hobby to his soccer. Basically, he loves soccer. He plays it all the time, or Europeans call it football, which is what he calls it, football. And he's also a coach, and you know, he does a whole bunch of stuff with football pretty much all year round. He's on the committee. It's crazy. So you know, I'm like, okay, you do that. You love doing it. And I never say anything against, you know, doing the soccer stuff unless you come home really drunk at like 3 in the morning, which happens sometimes. But, you know, pub nights, whatever. We had a meeting. Yeah, okay. But so, you know, and at first I did get angry, like, if you want to do that, fine, you can do that. But you let me do my gaming and not judge me, because that's what I do. You have your soccer, I have my gaming. You know, and we both dedicate some time to that, but we both have to dedicate some time to each other. And there was a time in the past year that's just passed that, you know, we did have a breakdown and we were having issues because we weren't communicating this. And he was doing his own thing and I was doing mine, and then we were kind of forgetting to talk to each other, really, and to say, you know, and if I wanted to spend time with him and you know, I would just kind of expect a night off, and it wouldn't happen because he would just go off to do his meetings or whatever, and then when he wanted to spend time with me, he found me kind of sucked into the computer. And instead of saying, okay, you know what, tap me on the shoulder, or me going, okay, we need to do this together, or, you know, we need to have a date night or whatever, we just, you know, not really say anything and just kind of let it simmer and just get really frustrated. And it came to a point where it was a big problem. And so we've dealt with that, and now that problem has evaporated because we both have a better understanding of what our hobbies are, what we like to do, and that you know, I told him I don't have a problem with you, you know, telling me you need to spend time with me. You want to spend time with me, you just let me know. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. It, and it, for some stupid reason, a lot of the times we don't do that. I don't know why. But, and especially if you've been with the same person for a long time, sometimes you you respect a certain routine to just stay the same. And when things change, which they have between me and my husband, I mean, we've been together for 11 years, going on 12. So, you know, our routines have changed over time. And when before we used to spend time every day together and all of our, you know, spare time together, basically. Or whenever he had something, I would go with him, and when I had something, he would come with me. It wasn't even a question. But now it's a lot different, where I need my own space and he needs his, and I have very different interest than he does, and he has his own interests as well. And so we need to sort of, you know, figure out where we both stand, and that can become difficult. You know, people change over time. That's what happens. So anyway, what we're doing now is you know, nights we don't do anything. We just spend time together, and that's something that was mentioned at the panel. Is you need to have that togetherness, whether it's gaming together or just you know, it doesn't have to be video gaming. Even it could just be like a board game or cards or whatever, or it can be going to the restaurant, getting a sitter, going to the restaurant. If you don't have a sitter, good for you. But you mean the pet sitter? I don't know, but yeah, you know, spend a weekend together. Don't touch any electronics, or turn off the phones. You're not going to answer your phone. You're not going to be texting. You know, you need that time to reconnect. And that's what we have done, and it's worked wonderfully. And now I have been able to get back into my gaming, because there did come a time where I had to step back from it because he was getting very upset. But then I was getting really upset over all his soccer stuff. So he's actually had to compromise and cut down on that. He was part of, I think, 2 committees, not just the one, but 2. And then it was just taking too much of his time, and he was never here. Well, not never here, but when he was here, you know, I was busy with something, and when I wasn't busy with something, he was gone. So that something had to give, basically. And that's what it comes to. It comes to compromise. You know, it seems like I'm harping, but that's all that it is, really. And also the good thing that was said at the panel was how to get your spouse to game with you. And I think a really good piece of advice was to find something that they like, that they're into first, and play it with them. And then maybe they'll start to look at your stuff and be like, oh, this is interesting. So I've been trying to get him something, to get him more interested. And I've downloaded a bunch of demos for him on the PlayStation 3. And, but he's still kind of resisting. I think you have to sit down and just play the demo in front and be like, hey, you want to try it? And basically that's what happened with Plants vs. Zombies, is I sat down with my daughter because, she was bored and she was like, let's play a game. And I'm like, we don't really have anything to play other than Free Roams and Wizard 101, and we were kind of both sick of those things. So I looked around and I was like, hey, Plants vs. Zombies, that kind of looks kind of cool. So I downloaded the demo and she loved it. And the fact that you can actually play with 2 players on the PlayStation was just awesome. And we had a really good time. However, after a while, after a few levels, I started to find the game really boring. And so my husband took over and he got hooked. He absolutely hooked. So I think that's my solution, is basically play something with my daughter first, because she loves gaming almost as much as I do. I think she might be going in that direction. So, if he sees us play games together and have fun, then he's more interested in trying out, especially if it's, to play with our daughter. So that's kind of my technique. For you guys, if you don't, you don't have a child or whatever, it's really just play something that you think is kind of up their alley and be like, you want to try this? Go ahead, take my controller, or just, see if you like it. If you don't, whatever. And just kind of make really light of it and, make it fun, make it like something that you can do together. And you never know what could happen, and in that sense, it also expands your own horizons, because, I don't know about you, but I find myself playing mostly just really high fantasy role-playing games, or anime role-playing games, or Japanese anime role-playing games, whatever. And, those types of games all the time, and it's actually through my daughter and my husband that I get to try other things and realize that, I actually like those other games as well. Maybe not as much as my regular stuff, but for distraction, it's really good. So it expands your palette, so to speak. So that's great. And that's what I have to say about that. I think the key component in being a gamer and not getting your spouse angry at you, really, is to communicate, is to say, okay, well, this is what you do, well, this is what I do. And you need to find a common ground and say, you might not be able to play all the time, right, every day. And even if you do that, I actually don't think that's a really good idea personally. It's not really healthy. You really should be doing other things besides gaming as well. So, but if they can understand that, this is your time to do stuff with your online friends, and and they have their own stuff going, and if they can understand that, and they should, that solves all your problems right there. But the key component is really communicating that and getting them to understand, and also getting yourself to understand their point of view as well. You have to understand that they want to spend time with you, that they want to talk to you, that there are certain times of the day where you really should be concentrating on your family, on your spouse, just them, nothing else. And just say, what's going on in your day? What's happened at work? What's happened with your friends? Make sure that you know what's going on in their lives. And vice versa, really. I got a kitty. Got a kitty. Oh, it's a kitty. This is Rico. He's a cute. What? Okay, sorry. I'm like being all baby talk here. Okay, just a kitty. Okay, sorry. And that's basically the trick to that, and spend time together when you can. I make sure to, and that's not just for gaming couples, really. It's for everybody. I think every couple out there has, after, especially after a certain amount of years, you really, really got to make sure that you are scheduling in that time for each other. It's massively important. You will find every single dating coach or site or whatever out there, column, that will tell you this. It's so that's what I have to say about that. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time on Game Dames. Bye.